She got a job at my company. We were really excited. That's what I kept telling myself, even as HR slid a printed sheet across the table. My name at the top, highlighted in red, followed by messages I never sent. My hands didn't shake. That's what scared me most. The office felt colder than usual, like the air conditioning had been turned up just for this moment. I could hear keyboards clicking outside the glass room. Normal life continuing while mine paused on a single accusation. Inappropriate conduct with the boss. I read every word carefully. Flirty lines, late-night messages, promises I never made. But I recognized the rhythm. The phrasing, the tiny, almost invisible way certain words were spaced, just like she used to type when we'd chat late into the night, laughing about how surreal it would be if we ever worked together. I looked up at HR, then through the glass. She was there, watching, not worried, not nervous, waiting, and that's when it hit me. Not as anger, but as clarity. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a plan, and she had already decided I was going to lose. I've always been quiet, the kind of person who fades into corners until noticed, if ever. People underestimate me. That's how I survive. Growing up, my ideas were dismissed as daydreams. My successes shrugged off as luck. I learned to speak softly, to observe sharply, to let others blunder around me while I memorized every detail. At work, I built my reputation not with noise, but with results. Deadlines met, presentations flawless, problems solved before anyone realized they existed. Yet when promotions were discussed, my name barely flickered across lips. Recognition always went to someone louder, flashier, or more charming. Even my friendship with her, my new coworker, my former confidant, was built on my willingness to support and protect her, to let her shine while I stayed in the shadows. I wasn't naive. I understood envy, though I never expected it to strike so personally. Seeing her at the office, smiling at the boss, shaking hands in a way that felt rehearsed, I recognized the old pattern. Underestimated people turning the tables with subtle, patient malice. And now she wasn't just trying to compete. She was trying to erase me entirely. I swallowed the instinct to panic. Observing is my weapon, always has been, always will be. Every day, the betrayals came in quiet, almost imperceptible waves. She'd accidentally drop my files on the floor, her eyes meeting mine with a flicker of amusement that vanished the moment anyone else looked. Coffee would appear on my desk, spilled, yet carefully arranged to look like a clumsy accident. Emails she copied me on carried subtle jabs, a misplaced comma, a passive-aggressive, "Just checking if you saw this," each one calibrated to irritate without evidence. In meetings, she lingered a moment too long at the doorway, letting the silence stretch before offering a faint, patronizing smile. Her voice was soft but precise, the way she pronounced my name with a shade of pity when addressing the boss, as if reminding him of my incompetence. One afternoon, she slid past me at the printer, letting the machine whir endlessly while she murmured, "Oh, did you need that?" in a tone that made the word need feel like an accusation. I catalogued it all, every glance, every pause, every underhanded compliment that cut sharper than any insult. She believed these tiny moments were invisible, that her venom was silent. But I noticed, always. And the more she pushed, the clearer the pattern became. Every slight built a cage, but cages, I've learned, have weak points. The turning point came on a Thursday, quiet as any other, yet sharp enough to fracture the pattern I'd been enduring. I watched her laugh with the boss in the break room, tossing her hair back like a rehearsed scene from a drama. My inbox pinged another accidental message. This one a forged text implying I had crossed a line I'd never even approached. I read it twice, then a third time, slow, deliberate, scanning the metadata, the timestamp, the phrasing, the way the words curled in that slightly artificial cadence she always used. That's when clarity hit, not as anger, but as cold, precise awareness. She had been building a web of lies, threading them into my reputation while everyone else merely glimpsed the surface. HR, the boss, even some co-workers, they were being her instruments unknowingly. Enough was enough. I didn't storm into the office or confront her in public. I didn't need theatrics. I leaned back, pulled up the server logs, cross-referenced every message, every access point, every minor anomaly I had silently catalogued over weeks, every tiny sabotage, every subtle betrayal. It left a digital footprint. And for the first time in weeks, I smiled, quietly, because patience had become my weapon, and the pieces were finally falling into place. I spent the weekend in silence, away from prying eyes, mapping out the smallest details, Revenge wasn't about confrontation, it was about precision. And I had the advantage, knowledge. I knew the systems, the workflows, the digital breadcrumbs that betrayed intent. I knew how HR processed complaints, how email servers logged every sent message, how access permissions revealed more than casual oversight ever could. I organized her patterns, timestamp by timestamp, noting every inconsistency, cross-referencing files, chats, and printer logs. I created a timeline so meticulous it couldn't be dismissed as coincidence. Her forged messages, the accidental spills, even the subtle manipulations of meetings, they all fit a pattern, a blueprint of her deception. Next, I prepared my evidence packets, screenshots with metadata, server logs highlighting anomalies, and a concise summary that laid out her manipulation without emotion, without embellishment. I reviewed HR policies, labor contracts, and company ethics guidelines to ensure every step I took was legally airtight. I didn't need allies, only clarity. My calm, deliberate preparation turned weeks of subtle sabotage into a story that could not be ignored. When I stepped back, the picture was complete. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to rage. The truth, carefully compiled, was already more powerful than any outburst. Monday morning, I walked into the office with nothing more than a folder in my hand and a steady heartbeat. The air smelled faintly of brewed coffee and recycled paper, ordinary as any day, but I carried weeks of careful observation in that folder. I requested a private meeting with HR, calm, composed, letting the silence stretch before speaking. One by one, I laid out the evidence. Timestamps, metadata, server logs, subtle manipulations traced with methodical precision. Each piece landed like a quiet bell, undeniable, clear, and cold. HR listened, flipping pages, eyes widening at the clarity. No theatrics, no shouting. Later, I watched from the hallway as she arrived, confident as ever. That confidence faltered in the subtle tightening of her jaw, the way her smile froze mid-gesture. HR called her in. Minutes later, she walked out, the weight of exposure settling like a shadow. She avoided my eyes. The office felt lighter afterward, though no one said it aloud. I returned to my desk, sipping coffee, listening to the soft hum of printers and keyboards. I felt no gloating, only a quiet satisfaction, the kind that comes from being patient, observant, and unshakably precise. Sometimes silence carries the loudest message, and in that silence justice spoke. The fallout was subtle, almost cinematic in its quiet intensity. Coworkers who had glanced skeptically at me before now offered nods of respect, small acknowledgements that didn't need words. Even the boss, who had never missed a chance to favor charm over competence, gave a brief smile. As we passed in the hallway, an unspoken recognition of steadiness over spectacle. She was gone by the end of the week, her desk empty, her carefully curated facade reduced to whispers and unanswered emails. HR handled it professionally, but the ripple effect was clear. Loyalty is fragile, trust is earned, and manipulation leaves scars not only for the target, but for the office ecosystem. For me, the victory was quieter, internal. My reputation, once subtly undermined, was restored without drama. More importantly, I reclaimed my self-worth, my sense that being underestimated didn't mean being defeated. Every small betrayal she had orchestrated became evidence not of my failure, but of her strategy, and my capacity to see through it. For anyone who has ever felt invisible, dismissed, or undermined, this matters. It shows that patience, observation, and careful action can protect you, not by confrontation, but by quietly, deliberately claiming your truth. I realized strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the calm, precise hand guiding the outcome unseen. Weeks passed, and the office returned to its usual rhythm, but I carried a new weight, one that felt lighter than ever. The tension that had knotted my shoulders eased, replaced by a quiet confidence. I no longer feared being overlooked, nor did I feel the sting of subtle betrayals. I had learned that observation, patience, and careful action were not just tools. They were a shield, a way to protect my dignity without losing my composure. I noticed the small things again. A coworker pausing to ask my opinion, a smile that wasn't fleeting, the boss consulting me on a project with genuine respect. These were not just tokens of recognition. They were the proof that integrity, once quietly upheld, earns its own kind of power. Looking forward, I plan to continue quietly excelling, letting results speak louder than words. I'll mentor, I'll observe, I'll rise. Not through spectacle, but through consistency. And sometimes, when the office hums around me, I allow myself a private smile, knowing that patience won, that subtlety prevailed, and that justice need not scream to be felt. Some victories are loud, but the ones earned in silence echo the longest.